You are watching
But he
Xirtus.
makes a point in this video, and he said that America, which this is one of the weird, I guess, propaganda lies that I might believe, is that America does have the most lenient laws, and I guess the most specific laws about free expression. There's no other country. And I do believe that from Zuckerberg's standpoint, he probably realized this more than anyone would, because he's got this app that's banned and he can see the censorship, and he gets called to all of those court meetings. He refers to these secret court meetings where they'll pull him in and silently force a network to take all the content down and not even mention it again in Latin America. Like, he was being very specific about some
Well,
of
I
these
mean,
claims.
just at this point, even from just a business perspective, like if you know, he's main thing that he's competing with X is over censorship specifically. That's why, like, if I go to Facebook now, I have culture shock. Like, I can't
I
even
believe
like.
you.
I'm like,
I think that that's a huge part of it. But he mentioned one really practical thing, and he said that China, for example, they are already censoring the hell out of their internet, and
sure.
to see that America was almost doing some of their work for them, like, oh,
Oh
America's
yeah,
censoring all this content too, then
to
it emboldened, the Chinese censor, so they even started censoring more. And they almost, I would imagine, behind the scenes there might have been like a China Biden arms race to like see who could censor the most in the most clever ways. But from Zuckerberg, who's truly a globalist in every sense of the word at this point, almost de facto, even
absolutely.
if he didn't want to be, he would have to be a
He
globalist right
doesn't have
now.
a choice in that way. Yeah.
He's got this vantage point where the way that he's described in this video is that he sees that, like, with all these other countries being emboldened with how much America is starting to censor itself, then America, if they had kept on the same path, and I guess he's taking some responsibility, at least, passively in this, but that emboldening of censorship, it's changing the global landscape, because we're maybe like the last, point that's like keeping some of that gate open a little bit. And once we like start letting it close and close and close, once it's shut, like, it's over. Like, globally, it's over. And he referred to it as, we can't have innovation without the freedom of ideas. He probably has this other agenda, but it
Right.
made such a great point that, yeah, every single inch that we give lead to, there's a correlation almost with like Second Amendment here too. If you're like a Second Amendment nut, like most paranoid Americans should be, but you notice that every single inch that's given up on that particular front is never given back in any
Right. Right.
capacity.
Right.
It's only giving, it's only seeding ground, and that's
Right.
what he was describing. That censorship is like this seeding ground issue.
Yeah, but what's funny is like that this is a concept that, I mean, Nietzsche emphasized this in The Birth of Tragedy, that if you like, law and order is all well and great, but if you have endless, like, necessary, but if you have endless law and order to the point that you're can perpetually taking more than you're giving back, then eventually it'll lead to the collapse of the whole empire, like,
So,
inevitably.
so
Like,
who better than to have the gangster prince, right? That we've kind of got coming in now. Is this not like the
mhm.
perfect epitome? Isn't that what Crowley called him? The gangster prince kind of replaces the Robin
Yeah,
Hood.
the gangster boss was replaced the concept of, yeah, when he's talking about the
So
sacrifice of the king. Yeah,
so not knowing what comes after that, is that a good or a bad thing? Like, does the gangster boss as
it's
king
both.
work out for
It's
the people,
both.
or does that lead to the Antichrist?
It wouldn't be bad, except that it's been so imbalanced in the other direction. So when you have like those extremes going back and forth, that's the thing, is that for every Apollonian movement there's a Dionysian corollary. So it oscillates back and forth, and the intensity can be destructive. So that's like why, like, Apollyon or whatever is like, the destroyer, or what, it's like, yeah. Law and order, man. But like, it's weird with Zuckerberg, because like, what would his experience be like? He got basically straight up like messages from the White House telling him what to do in 2020, and he was like,
Well,
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 shit,
he
if
made
I
a
don't.
point too, and China, and Latin America, and like any other country you could think of, he was getting
Right.
those messages from
Every
all of
country.
them.
Right. Well, it was the most patriotic thing you could do in 2020 was to emulate China. And somehow, like, I didn't like, that was like what is happening? Like, people were literally like, we gotta do what China's doing, like, come on. It was like, what the hell
That's such a
happened
great
there?
point. I never thought of it like that, and you're absolutely correct.
It was bizarre, dude. I was like, this is bizarro world.
I know.
How-
I fell into the fever too. Day one, I stopped eating pangolin right off the bat. Haven't
I
touched
wait till at
It's
least day
wild to give
5.
up that, but
I finished off my pangolin.
I like his hair. He's looks like he's aged about 5 years since he
he
started.
had a glow up, man. He started doing jujitsu. He started getting like a tan and just like building on himself a little bit. He
Yeah.
put like a fleshy layer over that what I assume is like metallic like exosystem that enshrines some kind of like a weird fluid.
Yeah, he
It's the
always
sun.
came across as somebody who did a lot of MDMA, like in college. Like he's just like he you know what I mean? Like he grinded his teeth so much, and now I'm sure he's turned a new leaf. I hope the best for Facebook. It'd be cool if
How much
Meta
money does it
chilled
take
the
to
hell
get
out.
to like the angst, like the angsty, like the Zuckerberg said those dumb Fs. I don't even know why they're signing up. They're giving me their information, those dumb Fs. Like
Right.
how much money finally washes away all that angst? Or does that never happen? Does he still have that deep inside? Or after you hit like your first billion or your first 100 billion, is it like, oh, that's so weird, I don't care about that anymore?
Wasn't it kind of out of his control from day one? Because that's the whole thing about the DARPA
Yeah.
program. I forget what it's
Oh
called,
yeah.
and just
The
like
light
how much of this was
man,
Homeland Security being like, "Wow, what an opportunity! We'll get everyone to profile themselves and tell us everything that they're eating, where they're going, and whatever the hell."
that legit, I saw that for not from the FBI's perspective, well maybe, but in Disney, that was one of the few. I think I'm way outside of NDA. I'm allowed to say this now, but I was in like a pretty high, like C-suite style like conference where they were talking about this new laws coming through. I can't remember. It's like the Child Information Privacy Act or something, and it's essentially stated that if someone's signing up for your website and you got that like I'm 13 or younger, like you either don't let them sign up or you're only allowed to collect like initials. Like you can't even collect their first name or the last name for a whole host of privacy and child protection reasons. But someone made this point, and I got to ask a question. I always ask the dumbest questions in these huge environments and like put the target on my back. But I asked them, I was like, aren't you concerned about this particular issue? And if so, like, how do you get around it? Like, how do you ask someone, hey, what's your favorite color? Is it blue? And they respond, now you technically might have made that violation. And I was just kind of seeing like how, like where on the line, it was very legal, like, had legal ramifications of the question, but he made this point that blew my mind, changed the way that I thought about it. And he was like, oh no, we don't have to ask for that anymore. Like these kids that sign up for these sites, you can just sign up, and the way that you would do it, you would have to like spin a wheel and it would just randomly generate your blue dice car or something. And now that's your name. And that's the best way to get around all these laws. You don't have to ask them how old they are because it's essentially like an anonymous interaction. But he was like, these kids are crawling over themselves to like tell us their favorite TV show and their favorite, Spider-Man episode and their favorite color and food and all this. So if we just have, let's say, a cafe in this little, and it was a Disney version of like Club Penguin and a bunch of other these ones, but it was like, if we just have a little cafe and we offer the foods that are in the real world and that cafe and do other things, like you get to pick your shirt color, well, now you kind of get to guess at what this kid's favorite color, favorite food. So they would be able to build this digital fingerprint and essentially figure out what region of the country you're in, like what kind of things you actually did like to do. So the actual human being that represented that lived in meat space didn't matter at that point anymore, because they got all of that marketing insight that they really wanted to know. How many people in this area like pizza over burgers, stupid stuff like that, right? But that was essentially the response. It was like, we don't have to violate this stuff because we never ask. We just let them tell us. And there's no real law against someone just like blurting out everything into this corporate machine. So anyways, Club Penguin, Disney, HIPAA, COPPA laws, and then Facebook. I think there's like a direct line between all of those things.